So I just finished the live show. I was going to wait until the next show to talk about this issue that I'm about to talk to you about right now, but I couldn't wait because now the story developed and, in my opinion, got even worse and sleazier. So I had to weigh in on this now. So yesterday, Glenn Greenwald tweeted the following. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy threatens punishment for Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib over their criticisms of Israel. It's stunning how much time U.S. political leaders spend defending a foreign nation, even if it means attacking free speech rights of Americans. So, Glenn is 100% right. Kevin McCarthy, the Republicans, and even some of the Democrats hate Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Why? Well, take a guess. One of the reasons is they've kind of given statements not fully in support of BDS, but like finally giving like a wink and a nod to the only viable and legitimate political movement that's a non-violent movement that's trying to give Palestinians their rights. So they, I read their statements on it. I think they're a lot more wishy-washy than what some of the headlines indicate. Like, the headlines just said flat out, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib support BDS. When I read more about it, I was like, not really. Like, they're just kind of saying, like, I see where they're coming from, and I'm not totally against it. Something to that effect. It wasn't, like, flat-out support for BDS, but it was the best any elected politicians have ever been on the issue of BDS, in my opinion. So, out come the Republican smear merchants. They call her an anti-Semite. We've covered stories previously where they smear her as an anti-Semite, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and to the point where you actually undermine cases of real anti-Semitism because you're doing boy who cried wolf when you have somebody stepping up saying, hey, maybe we should care about Palestinian rights, and maybe we should care about all people who are oppressed. And that's not to say that there hasn't been anti-Semitism and isn't still anti-Semitism to this day. And we are opposed to that, but let's also care about Palestinians, and let's not pretend like good faith criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Well, in response to that Glenn Greenwald tweet that I just read you, Ilhan Omar's response was this. It's all about the Benjamins, baby, with like the fucking little musical note thing. So imagine singing it's all about the Benjamins, baby. And immediately, the second I read that, I went, here we go. I guarantee you're going to have smear merchants come out of the woodworks and say, oh, how could you? You're being an anti-Semite. Now, what's their argument? Their argument is, oh my God, you're saying Israel controls U.S. politicians, therefore that's the old anti-Semitic trope of like Jews run the world, therefore you're an anti-Semite. Now, why is that the most hacky of all hacky arguments I've ever heard in my life, and they're reaching to insane levels to try to accuse her of being an anti-Semite? Well, the answer is very simple. She's referring to AIPAC, the Israel lobby. Okay, AIPAC exists, the Israel lobby exists. They give a tremendous amount of money to the Republican Party and to like half the Democratic Party, all the corporate Democrats. And is the argument now that no, that money has no impact on politicians in Washington and they don't end up doing the bidding of the Israel lobby and doing policy that's favorable to them? You would honestly have to be the most politically ignorant person on the fucking planet to think that's not true. I mean, are you kidding me? Obviously, that money directly impacts policy, and obviously, they're not doing it for shits and giggles. They're doing it because they want to buy favorable policy. By the way, you know who else Ilhan Omar has criticized on this front? Saudi Arabia. Is she an Islamophobe for saying Saudi Arabia needs to stop controlling U.S. politics and stop buying politicians, and we need to stop doing weapons deals with them? She literally called for, BDS of Saudi Arabia, too. So these are just, it's nothing but gross smears and lies. So Glenn Greenwald also, he weighed in again after seeing the backlash, and he said this, equating Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib's criticism of Israel to Steve King's long defense of white supremacy is obscene. In the U.S., we're allowed to criticize our own government, certainly foreign governments. The GOP House leaders' priorities are warped. Again, he's 100% correct. Now, the smear merchants came out in full force against Ilhan Omar, calling her an anti-Semite. there's this woman, Batya Ungar Sargon, no relation to Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin. But she said, would love to know who Ilhan thinks is paying American politicians to be pro-Israel. Though I think I can guess. Bad form, Congresswoman. That's the second anti-Semitic trope you've tweeted. Then she farted and sniffed it and said, "Oh, my gas is awesome." And Ilhan responded, AIPAC, I'm talking about AIPAC. Like, what is wrong with everybody? So then a bunch of people rightly came out defending Ilhan Omar. She's talking, and one person said, Saint91 on Twitter said, she's talking about the influence of Israel, and this immediately gets twisted into anti-Semitism. Is she also Islamophobic for attacking Saudi's influence on American politics in exactly the same way? Chelsea Clinton jumps in on the smear bandwagon, smearing Ilhan as anti-Semitic. And Chelsea says, hi, Melissa. This is to somebody else who was smearing Ilhan. I will reach out to Ilhan tomorrow. I also think we have to call out anti-Semitic language and tropes on all sides, particularly in our elected officials and particularly now. God damn it, she's not an anti-Semite. She literally was just criticizing Israel, the government of Israel, which is a right-wing government, by the way, and criticizing the lobbying efforts of said government buying American politicians, which they do. Saudi Arabia does it also. So it has nothing to do with an anti-Semitic trope of Jews secretly running the world. It has to do with the influence of Israeli lobby money on American politicians, which is proven. God damn it, we just gave $38 million in a military package to a freaking government increasing illegal settlements under international law, and we're supposed to pretend like, oh, okay, you're not allowed to criticize that because if you do, it's anti-Semitic. So to oppose apartheid and illegal settlements is now anti-Semitic? Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus Christ. So Ilhan responded as if Chelsea was in good faith criticizing and said, Chelsea, I would be happy to talk to you. We must call out smears from the GOP and their allies, and I believe we can do that without criticizing people for their faith. I look forward to building an inclusive movement for justice with you. Listen, Ilhan, I love you, but they're not good faith critics. They don't actually think you're a fucking anti-Semite. They are smearing you. And Imran Siddiqui made a great point about this. He said, listen, you can't help but get the whiff of like, this is like the status quo saying, okay, we know now you got a couple of these cutesy Muslim women who got elected, but know your place, okay? Know your place in the government. Don't speak up. Oh, you're going to talk about issues that really do resonate specifically within brown communities in this country. You know, the issue of solidarity with Palestinians because Palestinians don't have their rights and we're trying to fight to get them their rights. So you have two Muslim women, the first Muslim women ever elected to Congress, and now there's immediately a non-scandal scandal that they're mucking up about it. Oh, they must be anti-Semitic. Are you fucking kidding me? They did the same thing to Keith Ellison, by the way. Oh my God, there was one time when he was like a fucking kid where he went to a Farrakhan speech and he said some kind words about him. Now, for the past fucking decade, he's done nothing but distance himself and say, I don't agree with him, I don't like him, blah, blah, blah. And they say, oh, yeah, but there was that one time when you were like a teenager or something that you went there and you liked him, so now you're an anti-Semite too. It's just, they're bending over backwards to do these accusations, and these aren't good faith criticisms. And we know the way it works in American politics. Yes, you cannot criticize the Israeli government. You can't criticize the Saudi government either in American politics. It has nothing to do with Islamophobia or anti-Semitism. That's utter nonsense. It has to do with the impact of money in politics. And it has to do with these foreign governments getting their way by buying our politicians. And these are all, it's just so cynical and so gross, and they're lying. Ashley Feinberg had a great tweet. She said, accurately describing how the Israel lobby works is not anti-Semitism. Thank you, Ashley Feinberg. And I actually think it does make a difference when you have Jewish voices speaking up in support of Ilhan Omar. I'm not Jewish. I was raised Catholic, but I'm an agnostic atheist and have been for years. So, you know, I hope my voice helps in this conversation, but it does help a lot more when it's Jewish Americans who say, no, she's not an anti-Semite, and stop being ridiculous. And then they were specific. Okay, Sheldon Adelson is a problem. Are we seriously pretending he doesn't buy GOP politicians? And the funny thing is, other Democrats will attack Sheldon Adelson and get away with it, but somehow when Ilhan Omar does it, oh, now you're anti-Semitic. Now, finally, and this is what pushed me over the edge into covering this now, okay? Listen to this. Democratic leadership released a statement on anti-Semitic comments from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. don't you guys always yell about unity? Don't you guys always talk about, oh yes, Democrats have to be on Team Democrat, yes. Oh, you mean that except when it's an actual leftist. That's what you mean. So you mean it when it's fall in line behind our shitty, status quo, centrist, neoliberal politics. Fall in line behind our corporatism. That's what we mean when we say unity. But when you have somebody speaking up on the proper side of issues like Ilhan Omar, now it's, okay, where's my shiv? I need to shiv her in the side repeatedly. They're agreeing with the bad faith smear in their fucking letter. By the way, here's who is part of this letter. Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, James Clyburn, Hakeem Jeffries, and a few others who I'm not recognizing at the moment. But here's what they said, quote, anti-Semitism must be called out, confronted, and condemned whenever it is encountered, without exceptions. We are and will always be strong supporters of Israel in Congress. How moral of you. Because we understand that our support is based on shared values and strategic interests. Legitimate criticism of Israel's policies is protected by the values of free speech and democratic debate that the United States and Israel share. But Congresswoman Omar's use of anti-Semitic tropes and prejudicial accusations about Israel's supporters is deeply offensive. We condemn these remarks and we call upon Congresswoman Omar to immediately apologize for these hurtful comments. As Democrats, and as Americans, the entire Congress must be fully engaged in denouncing and rejecting all forms of hatred, racism, prejudice, and discrimination wherever they are encountered. This shit is why people on the left are rejecting identity politics. Because you're doing a bastardization of identity politics. You're using identity politics cynically to use as a cover for shitty neoliberal politics. This is what Hillary did. I'm with her. I'm a woman. Vote for me. Anyway, I'm going to continue the status quo and continue backing Saudi Arabia and continue backing Israel and continue doing Wall Street spitting and continue doing the military-industrial complex spitting. But vote for me because I'm a woman. This is the same kind of shit. Oh, did you speak out against Israeli apartheid? Did you speak out against the Israeli lobby money controlling so many politicians in this country? Because that's a fact? Oh, you're my anti-Semite, anti-Semitic tropes. Oh my God, what are you doing? Jesus Christ, man. Listen, this is specifically to Ilhan Omar. I hope she sees this video. Do not back down. Do not apologize. The American people are with you. You did nothing wrong. This is not a close issue. People are smart enough to see through the bullshit of Democratic leadership. And for the 9,000th time, for AOC, for Rashida Tlaib, for Ilhan Omar, for all the Justice Democrats, for Ro Khanna, even for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, Democratic leadership is not your fucking friend. They don't like you, they don't agree with you, they're gonna fight you tooth and nail, and they're even gonna fucking smear you as an anti-Semite when you dare to say the truth about what's happening with AIPAC and the Israel lobby and the corrupting influence of money in politics. This is a bad faith smear, they're lying. These are not good people who are, well, we have some disagreements, but they'll mostly be with us. They're gonna gaslight you every step of the way. They're gonna try to block Medicare for all. They're gonna try to block free college. They're gonna try to block you when you try to end the wars. You have to fight them every step of the way. Don't give in. Don't you dare give in on this, Ilhan Omar. You've done nothing wrong. You're being smeared, and the people are with you. So enough with this nonsense, fake cries of anti-Semitism that undermine actual cases of anti-Semitism. I mean, what a sick, disgusting joke this is, equating her with the likes of Steve King. Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus Christ, man. But, you know, you're not allowed to criticize Israel. Don't criticize Israel. Definitely don't talk about the corrosive and corrupting influence of money in politics. Just don't do it. And if you do it, we're going to ignore the fact that you've done it with Saudi Arabia. We're going to call you an anti-Semite. And wow, would you look at that? How convenient. Every time a brown politician in this country speaks up for Palestinian rights or speaks out against the corrupting influence of money in politics, all of a sudden they're an anti-Semite and they're beyond the pale and they're unreasonable. This is why we hate Democratic leadership. And this is why we love the Justice Democrats and the insurgent populist left. Do not budge an inch on this, Ilhan Omar. You're right. They're smearing you. Fight back. Fight back. Because the people are with you and will notice it if you fight back.